Welcome to the presentation for Chapter 5, Developing the Security Program. In reading the learning objectives, upon completion of this material, you should be able to recognize and understand the organizational approaches to information security. Listen and describe functional components, determine how to plan and staff an organization, evaluate the internal and external factors that influence the activities and organization of an information security program, list and describe the typical jobs, titles, and functions, as well as describe the components of a Security Education, Training, and Awareness Program, or SETA. First, let's begin with organizing for security. The term Information Security Program is used here to describe the structure and organization of the effort that strives to contain risks to the information assets of the organization. As organizations get larger in size, their security departments are not keeping up with the demands of increasingly complex organizational infrastructures. Security spending per user and per machine declines exponentially as organizations grow, leaving most organizations handcuffed when it comes to implementing effective security procedures. Functions needed to implement the InfoSec program include risks, system testing, policy, legal, planning, measurement, authentication, compliance, training, as you see in the list provided. In contrast to the large organizations, smaller organizations typically create fewer groups, perhaps only having one general group of specialists. Large organizations split functions into multiple groups. Here, for security in large organizations, you can see the recommended approach to separate the functions into those groups. Provided as a visual representation of InfoSec staffing in a large organization. The more money the company can dedicate to its personnel budget, the more likely it is to maintain a large information security staff. Here's the InfoSec staffing visual in a very large organization. The medium-sized organizations only have one full-time security person, with perhaps 3 individuals with part-time InfoSec responsibilities. Here's a visual representation for InfoSec staffing in a medium organization. In small organizations, security training and awareness is most commonly conducted on a one-on-one basis, with the security administrator providing advice to users as needed. Smaller organizations typically have either one individual who has full-time duties in InfoSec, or more likely one individual who manages or conducts InfoSec duties in addition to the other function areas they are assigned, most likely in IT, and possibly with 1 or 2 assistants. Here you can see InfoSec staffing in a smaller organization. Placing InfoSec within an organization. The challenge is to design a reporting structure for the InfoSec program that balances the needs of each of the communities of interest. Let's talk about the components of the security program. The CIO and CISO should use the strategic plan and the plan's vision and mission statements to formulate the mission statement for the information security program. Here you can see the NIST elements of a security program. It includes policy, program management, risk management, lifecycle planning, personnel, user issues, preparing for contingencies and disasters, computer security and incident handling, awareness and training, security considerations and computer support, physical and environmental security, identification and authentication, logical access controls, audit trails, and cryptography. Information security roles and titles. According to Swartz, InfoSec positions can be classified into 3 types: those that define, those that build, and those that administer. The definers produce the policies, guidelines, and standards. Builders, the real techs, they create and install security solutions. And then you have those that administer. They operate and administrate the security tools, the security monitoring functions, and they're the people who continuously improve the process. So when you're addressing information security titles, while some may change slightly, primarily you'll see the Chief Information Security Officer or Chief Security Officer, security managers, security administrators and analysts, security technicians, staffers and watchstanders, consultants, officers and investigators, as well as help desk personnel. Change security out to cyber, and you'll see many of the common jobs currently shown on multiple hiring agencies and websites. The following provides a visual representation of the information security roles in their hierarchy. The Chief Information Security Officer usually reports directly to the Chief Information Officer, although in larger organizations, one or more additional layers of management may separate those two officers. Some, however, will simply call the Senior Executive for Physical Security the Chief Security Officer and define a role for the CSO that is not integrated into a holistic risk management program. Security managers accomplish objectives identified by the CISO, to whom they report, and they resolve issues identified by technicians, administrators, analysts, and staffers for who they supervise. Security analysts must be able to identify the user's needs and understand the technological complexities and capabilities of the security system they design. A security technician is usually an entry-level position, but one that requires strong technical skills, which can make this job challenging for those who are new to the field, primarily given that it's difficult to get a job without experience, and yet the experience in this area comes with the job. When thinking about security staffers and watchstanders, new InfoSec professionals have the opportunity to learn more about an organization's InfoSec program before becoming critical components of the administration when employed as staffers and watchstanders. Security consultants are usually brought in when an organization makes the decision to outsource one or more aspects of its security program. You may often hear security officers and investigators referred to as GGG, Guards, Gates, and Guns. These roles are often closely related to law enforcement and may rely upon employing persons trained in law enforcement or at least in criminal justice. Because help desk technicians perform a specialized role in information security, they have a need for specialized training. These are the people who are technical experts, but are the face of your organization's IT department. Implementing the SATA. The purpose of SATA is to enhance security. It does so by building in-depth knowledge as needed to design, implement, or operate security programs for organizations and systems. It develops skills and knowledge so that computer users can perform their jobs while using IT systems more securely. And it improves awareness of the need to protect system resources. The framework of SATA shown here shows awareness, training, and education. Local and regional resources might also provide information and services in educational areas when you're looking at additional security education. Management can either develop customized training or outsource all or part of the training program. Do note the two methods for customizing training: functional background and skill level. There are multiple delivery methods of the training. Factors do concern budget, scheduling, and needs of the organization, but they can be one-on-one, a formal class, computer-based, distance learning, user support, on-the-job, or self-study, but specific to paperwork. When selecting the training staff, it's important to note that an organization can organize and conduct training in-house using its own employees. It does not have to hire professional trainers, but can elect to do so. Implementing the training is provided in these 7 easy steps. Identify the program scope, goals, and objectives. Identify training staff, target audience, motivate management and employees, administer the program, maintain the program, and evaluate the program. Security awareness programs are one of the least frequently implemented, but the most effective security methods when trying to promote security awareness. When developing an awareness program, some of the important steps in this slide are to focus on the people, refrain from the technical jargon, translate that technical speech into common everyday terms, keep things light, and help users understand their roles. Security training and awareness activities can be undermined, however, if management does not set a good example. It's important to determine the culture of your organization and change it if needed for the better. Dissemination and enforcement of policy become easier when training and awareness programs are in place. A security awareness program can use many methods to deliver its message. It can use videos, posters, and banners. One not mentioned here is email. A simple email from the CISO to the staff can make a difference. A security newsletter put out bi-monthly, monthly, quarterly can keep the idea of information security uppermost in the user's mind and stimulate them to care about security. Here's an example of such a letter. The security poster is also a series of simple and inexpensive methods to keep security on people's minds. Professional posters can be quite expensive, so in-house development may be the best solution. Keys to a good poster series are varying the content and keeping the posters updated, keeping them simple and visually interesting, making the message clear, and always provide information on reporting violations. Here are a few security posters you could review. Organizations can establish web pages or sites dedicated to promoting information security awareness. A few tips are to plan ahead, keep page loading time to a minimum, and spend time promoting the site. If they don't know about it, they won't go to it. A very important part of information security is project management. A project is different from a process in that it's a temporary activity that's used to create a specific product, service, or a result. Here you can see the information security program chain from initial state to planned desired state. Project management involves the temporary assemblage of resources to complete a project. Organizations that make project management skills a priority benefit by detailed blueprints of project activities. They identify specific responsibilities, they define the project constraints, they establish performance measurements, and allow for change management. Regardless of the approach you take, the goal is the same: to have all elements of the InfoSec program completed with quality deliverables on a timely basis and within budget. The Program Management Book of Knowledge areas, are promoted by the Project Management Institute, or PMI. It's considered the industry's best practice. Here is the Project Management Book of Knowledge areas. They include communications, cost, human resources, integration, procurement, quality, risk, scope, stakeholder, and time. I'm sure many of you have been to meetings without all the stakeholders present. That program that you had to listen to had risks that were not acceptable, or the cost for the overall project was beyond that of the company's means. And that could just be implementing a firewall. There are many tools project managers can use. Remember, though, that projectitis occurs when the project manager spends more time documenting project tasks, collecting performance measurements, recording project task information, and updating project completion forecasts than accomplishing the meaningful project work. Part of project management is understanding the work breakdown structure. In the WBS approach, the project plan is first broken down into a few major tasks. Each of these major tasks is placed on the WBS task list. The minimum attributes that should be determined for each task are the work to be accomplished, the amount of effort required, the skills needed, and any interdependencies from tasks. As the work breakdown structure plan develops, additional attributes can be added, such as estimated capital expenses, non-capital expenses, task assignments, or start and end dates. You can also update work to be accomplished, the amount of efforts, task dependencies. A number of approaches are available to assist the project manager in sequencing effort. This includes network scheduling. Network in this case refers to the web of possible pathways to project completion from the beginning task to the ending task. A simple network dependency is shown. A complex network dependency, however, may have correlating tasks like A and B, which have to be done to get to C, or a roundabout from C to E. If you follow the path, you can see the number of days it will take to get to that milestone event. Another tool is the Program Evaluation and Review Technique, or PERT. It is possible to take a very complex operation and diagram it in PERT if you can answer 3 key questions about each activity. How long will the activity take? What activity occurs immediately before? And what activity occurs immediately after? Should a delay be introduced, whether due to poor estimation of time, unexpected events, or the need to reassign resources to other paths such as critical path, the tasks with slack time are the logical candidates for delay. Here you can see a program evaluation or review technique. There are several advantages to PERT. One of the biggest is it anticipates the impact of changes on the system. However, PERT can be difficult to place an accurate time to complete on some tasks, especially if the initial construction of the project incurs estimates that are invalidated by any close critical path calculations. Another tool is the Gantt chart. It's a simple bar chart that's even easier to design than the PERT diagrams, and they yield much of the same information. Here's an example of the Gantt chart. In summary, please remember the term InfoSec program, and that the functions should be separated into 4 areas. Remember, implementation of a full-time security personnel will vary on the organization's size. The sizes were set as small, medium, large, and very large. Also note that the SATA program is the responsibility of the CISO. And concerning SATA, please remember that SATA programs improve employee behavior and enable the organization to hold employees accountable to their actions. Remember, when customizing training for the users, you can do so by functional background or level of skill. And last, don't forget that project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. We also showed you some of the tools that you can use, such as the PERT or the Gantt chart. The critical path method is also in your book. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Please now use the information in chapters 1, 4, and 5 to go answer your discussions and complete your week's requirements. Thank you.